Okay, good day, class. So, this is a recorded session. This is part 2 of your coverage for your first examination. So, let's recap what we have discussed last session. So, last session, we have discussed about criminology and its origin. Yan. So, criminology, yung word na crime, the word crime originated from the Latin word crimen, which is translated to an offense, and then the Greek word logos, which means, or the Latin word, which logos, which means study or field of studies. Yan. So it was combined into criminologos, which is the study of offenses, na naging criminology. So yung criminology was first coined by a French anthropologist na si Paul Topinard. That was noong 1889. Yan. So, criminology is the scientific study of criminals, criminal behavior, and the causes of criminal behavior and crime. And also, criminology is a body of knowledge regarding sa ano ba yung mga aspects revolving around the occurrence of a crime. Sino bang involved? Ano bang conditions ng mga taong involved? Anong conditions ng environment kung saan nangyari yung krimen? Okay? So it is the scientific study and analysis of those. We also discussed last time the different types of crime. So crime is a general term. It is an act or omission in violation of public laws. Ang ibig sabihin ng act or omission, ulitin natin, when it's an act, it refers to an overt act. Yung kita or is visible from another point of view. Yung nakikita ng iba. Hindi mo naman pwedeng gawing krimen yung hindi pa ginagawa obviously or overtly. So, hindi yun nagiging krimen. It is only counted as a crime if it is done overtly or acted overtly. Also, yung overt or yung obvious na pagpapakita na wala kang ginawa or omission or that is what we call the non-feasance. Wala kang ginawa pero you are required to do something. Pero hindi mo talaga ginawa. As in, wala nga. That is still a crime for other um, laws. Yung ibang mga batas, meron silang ginagawang mga bagay or yung mga bagay na hindi naman nila ginawa. And it's considered a crime. Okay? So, first kind of crime is felony. Okay? When we say felony, refers to an act or omission punishable by the revised penal code. So, revised penal code or RPC, yan yung, again, ulitin ko, that is the main source of law dito sa ating bansa. It originated from the Spaniards sa kanilang Código Penal na inadapt natin by the time we have secured independence from the Spaniards at nung early portions ng regime ng mga Amerikano. Yan. So, violations of the revised penal code are called felonies. When we say offense or a violation of an offense, it is the act or omission na punishable naman ng special penal laws. Sinabi ko last time, yan yung mga Republic Acts, mga RAs, mga PDs or presidential decrees, mga executive orders, at yung mga batas or mga rules and regulations na sinet ng isang department or agency ng government. Yung tinatawag na mga memorandum orders or memorandum circulars. And the next is misdemeanor or infraction or yung delinquency. Commonly, misdemeanor lang to. The act or omission in violation of simple rules and regulations. Curfew, yung mga simple lang, jaywalking, yan. Commonly na mga nandito is yung majority of them are called victimless crime or victimless crimes. Yung wala naman talagang victims, but is a violation of the law because it is prohibited. Pinagbabawal. Okay? So, yan yun, misdemeanors. So, also, last discussion, we have discussed about the principal components ng criminology. Yan. Unang-una, criminal etiology. It involves the application of scientific analysis sa causes ng crime. So with the use of the scientific method, inaalam ng mga criminologists na nasa field at ng mga students sa criminology schools kung ano ba talaga ang root causes ng certain type of crime or about a certain type of crime. And also, it explains in criminal etiology na kapag ang isang tao gumagawa ng krimen, hindi lang iisa ang kanyang nagiging rason sa paggawa ng krimen. Which further states that there is no single and only explanation of the causes of crimes. Halo-halo yan. Maraming tinatawag na contributing factors. Okay? Yan yan. It tries to be explained sa criminal etiology. Last time we also discussed the other components like sociology of law, yan. The importance ng batas or the importance of law towards a certain country and a form of social control. May mga nagpapakalat ngayon sa social media na yung mga protocols, mga rules na ginagawa ng mga gobyerno, hindi lang sa Pilipinas, pati sa ibang bansa, ginagawa daw nila yon as a form of social control sa mga tao. Well, that is actually correct. When you create laws, when you create rules and regulations, it is a form of social control. Kaya hindi natin masasabi na freedom is actually everywhere. Maling-mali yan, kapatid. Kaya nga may batas to control our freedom because freedom is not absolute. Hindi 100% ang freedom. Kasi pag sumobra tayo niyan, nagkakaroon ng problema sa isang society. And of course, sa pagkamit ng freedom, it is not free. That's why freedom is also not free. Kailangang pagbayaran. Okay? So that is being explained in sociology of law. It also explains the rules and regulations, yung mga batas na ginagawa in order to have a better society and to also inform the public that if they do this and that na violations ng law, they will be inflicted with punishments. At para maiwasan ang mga tao na magkaroon ng punishments, may mga batas na may kaukulang parusa. So basically, sa criminology, ang focus natin, criminal law. Okay? Criminal law, of course. But also, dahil meron ding law enforcement na function ng gobyerno, once those public officials and public agents or agents of authority gumawa ng kabulastugan, then yung maipapataw na parusa sa kanila is yung mga administrative cases. Yan. Mga kasong administratibo. Okay? Another component na na-discuss natin last time, penology. Just take note of this. The study of criminal punishment. Or basically, penology or yung mas accepted na term internationally, corrections. 'Di ba? Pagkatapos masentensya ng isang accused or ng kriminal sa korte, once nagkaroon na ng final judgment sa kanyang kaso, he is declared guilty beyond reasonable doubt kung dito sa atin, or yung guilty in general. Saan ba siya ilalagay? Hindi ba sa mga correction facilities? Generally, yung term natin, kulungan. So, it is the study of criminal punishment, a subfield of criminology, which tries to understand why people commit certain behaviors and what are their remedies at yung mga pwedeng gawin sa kanila or yung pwedeng maging alternative sa kanila para sunod na maibalik sila sa community, hindi na sila gagawa ng kahit anong krimen. Yan. And also the study in which how societies deal and punish those law violators. Iba't ibang bansa, iba't ibang region, may iba't ibang paraan para makontrol or somewhat malesen yung occurrence ng crimes at mas less yung mga taong papasok sa mga kulungan. Also, we have discussed about yan, distinction between criminology and criminalistics. Criminology is the general study yan ha. The general field, a social science, of course. Hindi lang yan, meron ding kaakibat na applied science yan. Of course, criminology in its strictest sense, theory-based. Karamihan yan theories ang sinastudy. Of course, because it is a form of a social science, it also tries to understand a certain society. Not just the general public, but of course, those who commit crimes, those considered criminals. Ang criminalistics naman is a component ng criminology in which ang focus niyan, instrumentation, yung paggagamit ng examinations ng mga kagamitan, and the scientific process. That's why it is an applied science. And of course, it also tries to adhere to certain laws and theories din. Practical and technological theories. Kasi yung mga instruments na ginagamit for detection of crime, nagmo-modernize din. Okay? It follows also a scientific process. Kung sa criminology, it's the people. Sa criminalistics naman, the things. Or yung tinatawag commonly na mga ebidensya surrounding a certain crime. Criminal things. Okay? So, sunod, na-discuss din natin previously, the difference between a criminologist and a criminalist. So, Sino ang criminalist? Okay? A person who is trained in the application of instruments and methods essential in detecting and investigating crimes. So sila yung gumagawa ng laboratory examinations. Sila yung gumagamit ng instruments and other scientifically accepted methods in detecting and investigating crimes. Yan. While ang isang criminologist, kung dito sa Pilipinas, he's a graduate of criminology, yung baccalaureate degree course, yung 4-year degree course, and also, nakapasa na siya sa board examinations for criminologists, which is set up by the PRC or the Professional Regulation Commission. Okay? May board exam na siyang natapos at naipasa. And that, after that, of course, magte-take oath yan siya. Once he is formally a criminologist, yan, may na siyang professional license. And of course, kasama yung pagtatapos niya ng kurso na kriminolohiya or yung bachelor's degree niya. Okay? So, yun yung criminologist. Last time, we've also discussed about the nature of criminology. So, we've also discussed previously about the nature of criminology. Meron tayong apat na nature or apat na natures ng criminology. As what I have discussed previously, yan, una, applied science. Ang criminology hindi lang nagbabase sa mga theories, but also scientifically proven laws and the scientific process itself. Kaya nga, criminology is also an applied science. At hindi lang yan, gumagamit rin tayo or kumukuha tayo ng tulong with the help of other applied sciences or those other fields of sciences. Yan, psychology. Kung sa atin yan, that is criminal psychology or sociology, the study of the society, of the people, and other natural sciences, ginagamit natin to fulfill our goal, which is to study crimes and those involved upon the commission of a crime. Anthropology, yan, the study of the human being itself. Yan, excuse me. Also, we have forensic chemistry. Yan. So, we also use other fields of sciences. Yan, chemistry, even medicine, di ba? Pag may taong pumatay, of course, may biktima, may patay na katawan. In criminology or in investigating and solving crimes in general, we also try to investigate or know the truth behind the bodily reactions of a person who is killed either accidentally or intentionally. Ayan, of course, kung sinabi nyo na nag-criminology lang ako kasi walang math. Hell no, merong math. We also have criminal statistics, yung crime mapping, and also we have criminological researches. Yan. Kasi dahil science tayo, we also conduct research. Meron tayong problema that we try to answer by the use of the scientific process. That's why meron ding mathematics another field of science that we apply to criminology. That's why we're an applied science. A social science, of course. Hindi lang iisang tao or iilang tao ang sinastudy natin. Basically, the environment we live in. And also other kinds and types of environment. Paano ba nagkakaroon ng interaction ang mga tao on a given area or in a country? Of course, kung yung mga taong nakatira sa isang bansa or sa isang area is called a society. And in criminology, we study how society reacts to crime, how society would commit a certain type of crime, yan, or ano ang mas magandang mga programs toward society in dealing with crime. That's why criminology is a social science. Also, criminology is dynamic. The reason that it is dynamic, 'di ba? Pag dynamic, constantly nagbabago or nag-iiba. The same goes with criminology. Criminology changes as social conditions changes. Ang ibig sabihin niyan, hindi tayo napapag-iwanan ng panahon. Kasi of course, ang mga kriminal may mga bagong uri ng krimen niyang maiisip, mga bagong uri or unique ways of committing crime. That's why in the study of crimes and criminals, we try to also change our perception and our stand towards crime. Kasi nagbabago ang panahon. Nagbabago din ang mga tao, 'di ba? Noong 1950s hanggang 1980s, the method of responding to crimes by police cars iba, 'di ba? Yung mga sasakyan noon hindi pa ganoon kalakas compared sa ngayon. At hindi pa sila nagkakaroon ng technology na masasabi natin na applied sa pagresponde ng mga pulis sa krimen. But now, take a look. Mapapansin niyo mga sasakyan mas malakas compared noon. Sa ibang bansa, meron ng mga computers sa kanilang mga vehicles. Because of the constant advancement of society and the world itself, pati na rin ng pag-adapt ng iba't ibang bansa through globalization, different methods of understanding and responding to crime, nag-change din ang pananaw sa criminology. As society changes, so does criminology para hindi tayo napapag-iwanan ng panahon. And also, criminology is nationalistic. The reason is, sa isang bansa, di ba merong mga batas, may mga rules and regulations? And of course, yung mga batas na iyon, dinadagdagan constantly. May mga bagong batas para maging akma or to be fit to the certain demands of a certain time sa isang bansa. So, criminology is nationalistic. Criminology and the criminal law that we try to study and understand are those that exists currently in our country and being applied sa ating bansa. The same goes with other countries. Kung ano yung mga current na mga batas na ini-enforce ngayon, we try to understand them also. Yung kung ano yung nasa ngayon. What we try to apply today, we try to understand it. If there are things na medyo may konting discrepancy or loopholes, we try to fill them up and understand how society would react upon those. How would society react upon new laws? Which is to maintain peace and order sa isang area or sa isang bansa. We've also discussed about the principal divisions, 'di ba? Na-discuss na natin 'yon. And also the nature. We've also discussed the importance of studying criminology. Yan. It is a source of philosophy in life. Yan. May mga tao na dedicated sila sa pagpuksaan ng krimen. To tell you honestly, ang krimen cannot be 100% be eradicated or mawawala because crime is a natural and social phenomenon according sa positivist school of thought na kung saan hindi mo mapipigilan ng mag-isa ang krimen at hindi mo mapupuksa ng 100% ang krimen because it is natural. Habang may tao, meron talagang gagawa ng krimen. The basic notion of it, di ba hindi mo kayang kontrolin ang pag-iisip ng iba? That basic fact relates that crime could not be stopped. It can only be contained to the barest minimum. Hindi natin masasabi na, oh, ang Davao City 100% walang krimen na mangyayari. Well, siguro for a certain minute or so, pero sa isang araw, imposible. The same goes with other places in our country. The same goes with the rest of the world. No one man or no one country could stop crime at 100% because nobody can control another person's thinking. Di ba? So, we can only hope to contain the occurrence of crime. Some people would use that as a philosophy in life. Of course, criminology dahil pinag-aaralan natin 'yan ngayon, it could be used as a background for a profession. Commonly, yung mga nag-aaral ng criminology would be pursuing a career in law enforcement. Whether bombero ka, police ka, jail guard ka, or sundalo ka, all of those are enforcing laws. Meron silang mga batas at mga utos na sinusunod at kanilang ini-enforce or they try to catch up to those who try to violate those laws. Yan. Also, one importance of studying criminology, as what I have discussed last time, the criminal and those involved in a certain crime, object sila ng interest. 'Di ba nakikita nyo sa news, pag merong binalitang buy bus na huling pusher, 'di ba tinitignan niyo yung itsura at pangalan niya? Sa common understanding ng tao, once they see that kind of situation on TV, gusto nilang marinig at makita sinong may gawa ng krimen at sinong biktima ng krimen. Not really much on the law enforcer, yung humuli. Ayan. Kasi yung criminals and those victims are legitimate objects of interest by the society. interesting kasi kakaiba. Hindi naman lahat ng tao gumagawa ng krimen, di ba? Yan. But also, in criminology, we try to understand why criminals commit those certain kind of crimes and why victims are being victimized. Okay? Yan yun. And how to control them. And of course, crime is a costly problem. Diyos ko, napakagasto. If you can understand the workings of a government, whether dito sa Pilipinas or sa ibang bansa, nilalaan ng budget ng gobyerno. For example, sa isang city, may budget yan para sa lahat ng services ng gobyerno. Of course, one of it is peace and order. Kung ang isang syudad, eh, talamak ang krimen, of course, yung budget na para sana sa pagpapatayo ng mga eskwelahan, ng mga ospital, and of course, for agriculture and other fields of society, nababawasan kasi ilalagay nila para sa peace and order. It's costly. Kailangan ng mas makabagong equipment, mas maraming law enforcers na tinetrain, and of course, yung mga equipment na yun, constantly minomodernize. So, it's very costly. Yan. Like for example, sa Davao City, dinadagdagan nila ng mga police stations ang syudad. Additional property cost. Di ba? Magsisecure ka pa ng lupa. And of course, yung lupa, hindi naman yan libre. Yung pagpapatayo ng mga police stations, ano yan, libre? Di ba hindi? Additional costs for property and equipment, additional costs for hiring and training law enforcers. And what if upon the occurrence sa isang krimen, merong mga na-injure or much worse, mga casualties. So, medical expense by the government, additional naman. So, for short, pag may nangyaring krimen, additional effort, additional manpower, additional cost for the government and the people involved. Okay? Di, wala pa jud nagikwenta katong pain and suffering sa mga involved and even the law enforcers. So it's a costly problem, whether monetarily or mentally or psychologically. Yan, masyadong costly. Also, we have discussed previously the scope and division ng pag-study ng criminology. Of course, because may criminal law tayo, may sociology of law tayo, the making of laws. Before 2012, wala tayong batas for crimes committed by the use of the cyberspace o yung cyber crimes. So, nakikita yon ng mga lawmakers at ng gobyerno na during those periods before 2012, yung mga criminal slowly gumagamit na din sila ng internet or the cyberspace in committing violence or committing illegal acts o yung mga acts na oppressive in nature. Okay? So when making of laws, the legislative department, and of course, together with other fields of interest sa society, they try to analyze scientifically and systematically bakit kailangan gumawa ng bagong batas towards cybercrime noong 2011. So yun, they try to understand why is it needed to have a new law in combating and enforcing crimes done through the cyberspace. Yan. 'Di ba? Ang criminology dynamic nag-a-adjust sa pagbago ng panahon. So, may makabagong krimen na ginagawa ang mga criminals. So, in order to win the battle against criminals or crime in itself, the legislators and the government created a law to suppress and to regulate those things being done in the cyberspace or sa internet. Kaya meron tayong Cybercrime Prevention Act na nilagdaan noong 2012. Okay, that's to fight crime done in the internet. And of course, sabihin natin merong mga batas. Like for example, murder. That is generally a sin and a crime. There would still be people in the future who would try to break laws. And of course, in criminology, we try to explain and study why certain individuals would break laws. Bakit nila ginagawa yan? And for some reasons, bakit inuulit nilang nilalabag yung batas? Ayan. Why would people still commit crimes? So, actually, that scope and division, yung breaking of laws, is part of criminal etiology or yung specific interest or area ng criminogenesis. The causes of crime. And of course, yung reaction ng isang grupo or ng society towards the commission of a certain crime or violation of law. Yan. Reaction towards the breaking of laws ng society. For example, 2016, binomba ang Rojas Night Market. Anong unang reaksyon ng mga taong malapit doon? Hindi ba nagpalayo sila? Tumakbo sila towards, I think, the area ng Marco Polo and the other areas away from Rojas Avenue. Or, yun, sa Rojas Avenue. Yung immediate reaction ng publiko yun, iniwasan na nilang pumunta sa mga matataong lugar, especially Rojas. And the days and weeks after that incident, yung mga tao, yung reaction nila in general, the Dabueño public reacted na medyo delikado pa talagang lumabas. So, mostly, yung mga tao, hindi masyadong nagtatagal sa labas. That is a collective reaction by the people towards a certain violation of law. Of course, that's terrorism, violation of a law. Ano namang reaction ng government noon? So, of course, a day after, or just even hours after the bombing, reaction ng kapulisan, of course, mas maraming checkpoints. Ang mga pulis na commonly nasa kanilang mga stations or nasa headquarters, nasa labas nagpapatrolya either through motorcycle, vehicle, or even yung mga foot patrols. Dinedeploy sila. So, yun yung nagiging reaction ng government at ng society. Again, the keyword, reaction. Delikado pag ang government at ang society is reactive in nature. Delikado yan. Only means na yung mga gumawa ng isang krimen sila na yung nangunguna. And that is what the government and society would not want to happen. Nung sa Rojas Night Market bombing, we can admit that the government and the people have failed because they become reactive. hindi sila naging, they have that kind of proactivity pero hindi nila na i-emphasize yung proactiveness or proactivity. When we say proactiveness or proactivity, inuunahan mo pa ang isang bagay bago pa yun mangyari. That is the purpose of gathering information, gathering intelligence. Kung reactive ang government at ang tao or isang tao sa isang bagay, of course, nadedehado na yung tao at ang gobyerno. Okay? Review lang din. Criminal justice system. Of course, every country has a different criminal justice system, pero ang focus natin dito sa atin sa Pilipinas. So, we have the PCJS, the Philippine Criminal Justice System. Sa US, tatlong pillars lang ang criminal justice system. Sa atin, please take note, 5 pillars. Let's start with the first, yung law enforcement. Of course, bakit silang nangunguna or nasa number one? Because they are the prime mover, the front line of the government in combating crimes. Pag may nangyaring isang krimen, may nagnakaw, paunahin mo ba yan siya na ipoprosecute? Wala namang ability or training mag-aresto ang mga prosecutors. So, of course, you need a dedicated agency to combat, suppress, and arrest those law violators. You need enforcement of the law. Okay? Kasi sila yung may kakayahan. Of course, after arresting or taking into custody a certain suspect patawag niyan ha, sa law enforcement, after the law enforcers compiled for charging a case, ipapasa na yan nila sa prosecutor, sa prosecution. Of course, itong si prosecutor, abogado yan. The lawyer who tries to review the case being filed by law enforcers and try to take a look if the arrest and the crime itself has probable cause. At yung taong na-charge with the indictment, yung allegedly who violated the law, dapat may probable cause na pwede siyang ipasa pataas sa kay judge. So again, sa prosecution, please take note. We're trying to check if the crime charged towards them has probable cause. May enough na rason si prosecutor na this is a violation of a crime. Kailangang matrial. So, sabihin natin meron siyang probable cause. Magpapasa yan siya ng charge o yung information ng isang case pataas kay judge sa korte. The court or the trial itself is the official public forum. Libre. Walang ticket-ticket manood ng trial. Tumahimik ka lang. Makinig ka lang at manood. Sa court or during trial, it tries to answer the questions surrounding the case being charged. And of course, the court is responsible for giving its final judgment whether the person is criminally liable or guilty or yung accused. Yan, yung suspect nagiging accused na siya sa korte during trial. Kung si accused ba, tinitingnan din niya ng korte kung guilty ba siya or yung accused is not guilty. Yan. Or acquitted. Okay? So sa court, ang tawag na niyan kay suspect, nagiging respondent. Respondent yan siya. Prosecution, ang tawag sa kanya, accused. Ba? Magcha-charge pa ng kaso si law enforcer sa prosecutor, kay piskal. So, yung pangalan niya doon, accused. Si Tampolano, accused. Kasi hindi pa siya nahatulan. Akusado pa lang siya. Pagdating sa korte during trial, yung tinatawag na respondent, of course, he would respond to the allegations brought upon the court during trial. Dito naman sa law enforcement, please take note, of course, obviously, suspect. Okay? Suspect. Si suspect, pag nahuli, of course, nagiging suspect or fugitive yan. Pag magcha-charge ka na ng kaso sa prosecutor or successfully na pasa na sa prosecutor yung criminal complaint, nagiging accused si Tampolano. During court proceedings or sa trial, siya si respondent. Okay? Okay? Sunod. Pagkatapos sa korte, nahatulan na siya ng guilty. Sabihin natin, guilty beyond reasonable doubt ang final judgment sa korte. So, of course, ilalagay na siya sa facility. Yung tinatawag yung prison or kulungan. So, idadala siya sa correctional facility. What if may mental illness or nakalagay sa batas na sabihin natin, first time offender, first time niya gumawa ng krimen, natulan siya. Ang binigay na hatol ng judge, rehabilitation. Sabihin natin may sakit siya sa pag-iisip or may certain wrongness sa kanyang katawan. So, either he will be put in rehabilitation, of course, isolated yan, or sa mismong mga kulungan, sa correctional facility. It is the weakest component, and of course, it serves for the criminal, kasi criminal na siya dito, or yung convicted na siya dito. Ang ginagawa nila dyan, they try to serve their punishment o yung sentensya sa kanila. And of course, kung rehabilitation, they try to fix what is wrong with that convicted offender. By the time na ibabalik na siya sa community after serving the sentence, yan, nagbago na siya. Reintegrated na siya sa community. Pwede na siyang ulit mamuhay ng malaya but with the condition na hindi na siya gagawa ng krimen ulit. So, yan yun. Community. Yan. Ulitin ko. Criminologist. Graduate na siya ng 4-year baccalaureate degree course of criminology. Nakapasa na ng licensure examination for criminologists or yung board exam na sineset ng mga board of examiners ng PRC or ng Professional Regulation Commission. And of course, hindi pa yan complete. Dapat si board passer at graduate ng criminology engage or pinapractice yung kanyang pinag-aralan. Included yan, mga professors, mga pulis, mga bumbero, jail guard, mga sundalo na nag-graduate ng criminology at nakapasa ng board exam. So, they are criminologists. Kami, mga professors ninyo, whether part-time or yung mga full-time, we are licensed by the PRC. Hindi kami pwede magturo kung hindi kami lisensyado. So, we are criminologists. We finished our 4-year degree course and we also passed our board examinations. And of course, we are engaged in the practice. Di ba tinuturo namin to? So, we are criminologists. Kayong mga estudyante, you are still students of criminology. hindi pa kayo pwedeng tawagin na criminologist in the strictest sense of the word. When we say criminalist naman, ulitin ko, a person trained in forensic sciences. 'Di ba? May mga fields of sciences under criminology, 'di ba? So, once na yung trained individual, of course, commonly graduate yan ng 4-year degree course. Once they apply those sciences and use those instruments and methods na akma sa certain field of science na ina-apply nila and uses those physical evidence as their main specimen or yung highlight sa kanilang examinations, well then they are called criminalists. Yung mga nasa laboratory, yung nasa crime lab, yung mga nagsastudy ng mga physical evidence na pinasa sa kanila for examination, you call them criminalists. Okay, so we'll go through the divisions of criminalistics. Part 2 na tayo. Okay, review pa lang yun ha. Wala pa tayo sa main course. Okay? So, division of criminalistics. Meron tayong 6 divisions as mandated by the PRC and the Board of Examiners for Criminologists, together with the Commission on Higher Education or CHED. So, these divisions of criminalistics or yung divisions of criminology, one of those is criminalistics. Diba? Forensic sciences, scientific in nature. Yan. So, sa criminalistics, meron tayong mga subfields dyan. Okay? So, meron tayong subfields which tackles some of these fields of sciences. Chemistry. We don't call it criminological chemistry. We call it forensic chemistry. 'Di ba? Yung mga ebidensyang ina-analyze during lab examination sa crime lab. Hindi ba 'yun ipapakita yung resulta sa korte? Once you use a certain field of science in application to court proceedings or in application to legal processes, nagiging forensic na yan. Oh, yan. First, forensic chemistry. First, chemistry, kasama na dyan mga fluids from the body, other fluids from the environment, mga chemicals, of course, substances, yan, mga residues, yan, from drugs to blood, to even bodily fluids, to even yung mga certain na mga weapons na chemical ang composition. Of course, being studied and tackled in forensic chemistry once you apply them in court proceedings. Okay? Forensic chemistry. Dito naman sa physics, of course, movement. Yan. So, maraming mga considered physicists, pero dito sa criminology or sa forensics, it's mainly firearms identification. So, ang ginagamit natin is yung, it's not really firearms identification kasi separate yan na term. When we say firearms identification, you try to identify a firearm. Anong brand, anong model, anong bala ang ginagamit, or anong projectile ba yan. That is firearms identification. Yan. So, ang general study niyan is forensic ballistics. The study of projectiles, the motion of projectiles and its effects on a target and is being applied in court proceedings. Kaya nagiging forensic ballistics. Other fields o yung subfields ng physics na ginagamit rin sa criminology, of course, meron tayong tool mark identification and comparison. What if yung mga magnanakaw gumamit ng mga siguro kanang mga maso, other tools to open a locked door? Yan. May mga tool marks na naiiwan. Of course, forensic photography. Gumagamit tayo ng equipment, yung cameras, in order to record the crime scene at the same time monitor criminals or suspected individuals. Yan. And then being presented with those pictures and photographs sa korte, nagiging forensic photography. And of course, speed ng vehicles. Doon sa amin sa United States, yung mga police cars o yung mga police vehicles, meron silang mga radars na installed sa mga sasakyan nila in order to individually monitor the speed ng mga vehicles if they are above the speed limit or in other instances below the speed limit. So yung speed at direction ng vehicles, if they have violated these laws on speed limit sa kanilang mga lugar, meron yan dun sa United States. But throughout the world, walang mga radars yung ibang mga bansa or mostly. Pero one thing that physics is really present sa law enforcement is sa traffic investigation. Traffic investigation, it is not just about yung bangga mismo. It's not about the effects of vehicles towards each other or yung epekto nila towards a certain thing. It also tackles in traffic investigation the speed and direction of vehicles before, during, and after impact. 'Di ba? May banggaan, of course may impact. Pero ano bang direction ng bawat vehicle involved before bumangga, moments before bumangga, during impact, and what if hit and run after nung pagbangga? So in traffic investigation, we try to understand and explain those and try to determine if the certain circumstances on a traffic incident is done as intentional or occurred as an accident. Of course, scientific yan dahil may biology o yung biological na perspective. 'Di ba pag merong taong pinatay or namatay either intentionally or accidentally, 'di ba may certain reactions ang body? May mababaling buto, may dugong lalabas, 'di ba? So the study of living things, biology, including humans. So sa biology, or we call it once a person is already dead, yan, pathology, try to understand the reaction of a body once it dies and anong mangyayari sa katawan ng isang victim if it is left alone on a certain place for a short amount of time or a long time. Sabi mahitabo sa lawas na abanay mga flies na mudapo sa iyaha, magbutod ba ng lawas after death? Manggahi ba ng lawas after death? Maglahi ba ang color sa certain body parts sa victim after death? Or any other circumstances na mangyayari after death? Yan. So that's still part of forensic pathology once you present those pieces of evidence in court. Still, generally part ng biology. Of course, we use technical terms, we use technical processes, we use special skills. So, may technical aspect ng criminology, mechanical, and scientifically proven. Yan. Part niyan, of course, firearms identification. Of course, sabihin natin, namatay yung isang individual by a gunshot to the head. So, sa firearms identification, what if nasa crime scene iniwan nung suspect yung baril? So we try to identify that gun. Anong brand niyan? Beretta? Colt? Glock? Sig Sauer? Anong brand niyan? We also try to identify its position upon discovery sa crime scene. We also identify what type of bullet was used at kung yung bullet or yung kanang basiw, the slug that was left on the crime scene matches the bullet inside the head of the victim. And we try to identify if they match or not. Yan. So itong firearms identification, ulitin ko, is different from ballistics. Okay? Kasagaran sa inyo ha. Siguro, on a certain time, nahalo na yung definition nitong dalawa. Basically, they're different. Sa firearms identification, we try to identify and compare those firearms that have been used upon the commission of a crime. In ballistics, it is a field of applied science, a branch of engineering that deals with the study of the art of throwing projectiles and missiles. And also yung motion ng mga projectiles, yan, commonly bullets, during flight, before impact sa target, and upon impact sa target. And anong epekto ng projectiles sa target? That is ballistics. So, ang mga individuals na trained dyan are called ballisticians. Sa firearms identification and ballistics, ang common na term niyan is yung firearms examiner. Kung ballistics lang siya na field, ballisticians. Ballisticians ang tawag. Pero pag kagaya sa PNP Crime Lab na trained sila for ballistics and firearms identification, we call them firearms examiners. Okay? Firearms examiners. So they try to answer what gun was used, what are the effects of the shots or yung bullets during flight, anong epekto nila sa victim or sa target by the time it came into contact with the victim's head. Yan. And if those cartridges and slugs found sa crime scene nagmatch sa baril at sa bullet na na-recover upon the search. Okay? So yun. It tries to be answered during firearms examination. Okay? Sunod, question document examination. Class, actually, ito na yung mga subjects na ma-encounter nyo by your time in criminology. Ito na yung subjects eh. Meron na tayong firearms identification. Sunod, question document examination. There are certain individuals who try to lie or to change documents for their own benefit. and they do it illegally. So sa question document examination, it tries to answer which is genuine, which is not genuine, at kung ano yung mga changes na nalagay sa isang document. Okay? And it also tries to determine sa isang handwriting ano yung ugali ng isang writer. Yan. For example, sumulat kayo. Titingnan ng isang question document examiner kung saan na parte sa mga sinulat nyo visible ang tinatawag na mga tremors or mga unexplained changes. Also, sa question document examination, dahil scientific process din yan, with the use of certain chemicals and processes, pati mga instruments, makikita yung mga tinatawag na hidden or secret handwritings. Yan. At nare-reveal din if the document have certain erasures, alterations, interlineations, or yung mga changes. What if sa isang document, sumulat ng last will and testament, eh, may kaduda-dudang pagbabago. So with the use of certain instruments, yan, oblique light ba yan, UV light, infrared light, and with a keen eye, of course, siguro, with the use of microscopes, makikita kung may erasures ba or merong pinalitan. That is being questioned and answered sa question document examination. Of course, in question document examination, hindi pwedeng malimutan yung forgery and its types, its kinds. Yan. What if yung cheque, imbis na 100,000, naging 400,000? And for example nito, 100,000 yung na-issue sa cheque. Yan. Biglang naging 400. Sabihin natin dinagdagan. Naging 400,000. Ulitin ko lang. 100,000 pesos. Dinagdagan ng kunting mga adjustments, naging 400,000 pesos. So, mas malaki yung naging income or nakuha from a certain bank check that could be questioned, and if it is done illegally, it's falsified. Yan, falsified, forged. Of course, one of those sciences or fields of sciences na ginagamit din sa criminology, one of your subjects soon, itong fingerprint identification. Yan. It's basically the cornerstone of personal identification. Marami kasing mga methods in identifying a person. The shape of the skull, the number of bones, the teeth, the number of teeth. Pero mas ina-accept at mas sure at mas unique ang fingerprint identification. Together with DNA examination and DNA recognition, itong fingerprint identification is infallible. Ang ibig sabihin, unique ito. Hindi to pwedeng madaya. Fingerprints are unique to a certain individual. Walang taong merong parehong fingerprint sa isang tao. Parang mga zebra lang. Unique yung patterns. Okay? So it can aid law enforcers in identifying if a person is involved in a crime or if a person is present sa crime scene. Okay? So yan. With the help of certain techniques within the fingerprint identification system na ginagamit at sinusunod, of course, we call that science, yan, dactyloscopy. Yan, study of fingerprints. Okay? Also, one of those forensic sciences na kasama din na tinatrain at sinastudy sa criminology. And one of your subjects in the near future, photography. Of course, nagiging forensic yan. So, forensic photography. Yan. Kasi itong photography is the graphic representation ng isang individual or ng isang scenario. It forms a permanent representation. Indispensable or ang ibig sabihin hindi ito mawawala kasi importante ito, 'di ba? Sa crime scene. Yan. Yung mga members ng SOCO, hindi nila tinatapos ang pagproseso sa isang crime scene kung walang photographs. Kasi yun ang gagamitin nilang mga ebidensya na magpapakita ng kondisyon ng crime scene the same way it was discovered. At of course, hindi naman natin dadalhin yung patay na katawan pati yung lupa sa korte. We could not bring the dead body and the land to court. So how would you represent the findings in the crime scene without doing that? So, with the use of photography, applying it and exhibiting it in court, nagiging forensic photography. With the use of different subcategories, yan, micro photography, macro photography, UV light photography, special light photography, ginagamit yan to represent a certain crime scene and to much more identify yan, what if merong mga footprints or fingerprints na hindi makikita ng naked eye or hindi ma-retrieve. So, with the use of photography, with the use of photographs presented in court, may papakita natin during trial yung involvement ng isang individual or ano bang motibo at damage na nangyari sa isang krimen. Lastly, lie detection and polygraphy. Another one of your future subjects, it does not detect lies. Okay? Hindi yan lie detector ang tawag namin dyan. We just simply call it the polygraph machine or the scientific process of polygraphy. Yan. Ginagamit yan sa crime detection pero hindi po ito pwedeng gamitin na ebidensya sa korte. Most, if not all countries do not accept polygraph examination results as a viable evidence to be presented in court. Kahit hindi ito siya part ng criminalistics or ng forensics. But this equipment, itong polygraph machine, is used extensively sa criminal investigation. Di mo ito magagamit na ebidensya sa korte, but dahil ginagamit ito sa criminal investigation, it could determine if a person has certain changes upon contracting a certain question during the custodial investigation, and it will try to give the police investigators certain leads towards crime investigation. Binibigyan ito ng leads para sa mga investigators about a certain crime. Yan. So, hindi po kasinungalingan ang dinedetect nito. That's basically not true. Sa polygraph machine, ang purpose nito is to verify statements of a certain individual with the use of yung visual na cues ng isang examiner, pati na yung mga readings during the course of the questioning. And it tries to detect deception or verify truth. Yan. Hindi po lies ang dinidetect nito. It detects physiological changes na measured ng polygraph machine. Yan. For example, may isang question binigay sa isang examinee. What if the examinee, upon a certain question, may irregular readings yung machine? So, yung mga readings na irregular, yun yung tinitake note ng examiner together with his visual observation sa examinee to somewhat determine if the person being questioned is being deceptive or being truthful. Yan. Hindi po lies yung binabasa sa polygraph machine. It's not a lie detector. Hindi naman yan nilalagay dyan sa readings na kasinungalingan. No. Physiological changes po. Changes in your blood pressure, the sweating of your palms, changes in breathing, and of course, yung movement ng puwet nyo pag nakaupo. Yan. May mga tao habang nagsisinungaling, nagbabago yung position ng pag-upo. It also tries to determine the direction and movement ng buttocks or ng puwet upon a certain questioning. Okay, next. The schools of thought in criminology. So let's start with classical school. Yan. Based on utilitarianism. Ano tong utilitarianism? I'll give you a key term. Greatest good for the greatest number of people. Kung anong mas ikaliligaya ng nakararami, that is considered the greatest good. So, ang proponent ng utilitarianism si Jeremy Bentham, an English jurist, philosopher, and legal and social reformer. Radical thinking to na Briton. He's a British. So, let's start with him first. Yan. Kasi sa kanya yung utilitarianism, the principle of utility. So, ito yung kanyang philosophy. Ito yung ina-advocate niya. First, people have free will to choose how to act or anong gagawin nilang actions, di ba? Walang pumipigil sa iyo na maghubad, di ba? Ang pwede lang pumigil sa iyo na maghubad, sarili mo. The same goes with committing a crime. But there are certain factors which attributed to your decision of not committing a crime. It's your free will to choose what you want and what you want to do. Yan. Sunod, deterrence or yung social control na ginagamit is based upon the utilitarian ontological notion na ang human beings or tayong mga human beings naturally is hedonistic. Anong ibig sabihin ng hedonistic? I'll highlight it here. Seeks pleasure and avoids pain. Please take note, when you are a hedonist, kung unsay lami, didto ka. Kung unsay sakit, wa ka didto. Period. Human beings are naturally hedonist. Iniiwasan nila yung sakit at doon sila lumalapit sa nasisiyahan sila or yung term nasasarapan sila. To the point na yung mga tao ngayong panahon, nganong dito man jud sila sa ginadili. Nganong lami ang ginadili. Basically, it's their pleasure. And they try to avoid pain. That is the principle of hedonism. The principle na pinaglalaban at na study ni Jeremy Bentham. Also, itong si Jeremy Bentham, he invented the panopticon style of prison. Kung saan, ang pag-monitor sa mga prisoners parang nasa gitna ka ng prison facility. And you can monitor your prisoners with a 360-degree view. Yung parang nasa gitna ka, pinapalibutan ka ng prisoners. Yan. Back to hedonism, according kay Jeremy Bentham, of course, ang tao naturally hedonist, wanted to seek pleasure, pero meron din ang tao or ang human being present din sa atin ang rational calculator. Ano ibig sabihin yan? So sa rational calculator, each individual has this together with hedonistic principles. Itong rational calculator, it tries to weigh up the cost and benefits of committing a certain action. Kung sa Bisaya pa, kitang mga tao, kada isa sa tua, natay rational calculator. Ang iyang purpose is para mabalanse nato, makita nato ang mga benepisyo o ang mga costs na mga consequence kung unsa may buhaton nato or kung unsa may dili nato buhaton. Ang rational calculator, it tries to balance if committing a certain act is a positive action or if we commit a certain act, wala tayong makukuhang advantage. Okay? So, that is rational calculator. We have freedom, we have free will. That's why we have a rational calculator. Nasa sa atin kung gagawa tayo ng krimen o hindi. Yan. It ignores the possibility of irrationality and unconscious drives. Na kanang pasintabi sa term, pero kanang mga uwagan na, for example, that's basically unconscious drives sa pagsugod. But if a person na yung ganon, mahilig sa hilig, what if na-control niya? Naisip niya na, illegal to. Oppressive or medyo bastos. Hindi accepted ng mga tao. So, hindi niya gagawin yun. Yung example na yun, doon natin nakikita na gumagana yung rational calculator ng isang individual. He tried to weigh the cost, effect, and benefits and disadvantages of committing a certain act. Sunod, punishment of enough severity can deter people from crime. Yan. Ang ibig sabihin niya dito, lahat ng batas may certain level of punishment depending on the severity ng krimen. Yan. Hindi yung lahat ng krimen, whether maliit lang or malaking krimen, isa lang yung penalty. Hindi ganon. The punishment must fit to the crime. Ulitin ko, yung punishment must fit to the crime. Part of classical rule. Yan. Kasi tinitingnan niya ni Jeremy Bentham yung sa study niya na if the punishment is equal to the severity of the crime, then it would be somewhat more balanced towards the criminal. At yung costs or penalties would outweigh the benefits. Ibig sabihin, dahil may punishments, may penalty sa isang krimen na equal to the crime committed, then those individuals would try to think again of committing a certain crime. Mag-iisip yan sila ulit kung gagawin nila, hindi. Gagawin nila, hindi. Gagawin nila, hindi. So, they try to use their rational calculator. Kasi nga, may certain punishment, may certain penalties. Okay? Also, kay Jeremy Bentham, the swifter and more certain the punishment, the more effective para mapigilan or ma-deter ang criminal behavior. This is basically one of his concepts na hanggang ngayon ina-adapt. Yan. Pag mas madali ang pag-enforce ng batas, pag mas mabilis yung proseso sa korte, pag mas mabilis yung pag-serve sa penalty or mas smooth yung pag-serve ng penalty sa correctional facility, then mas effective siya sa pagpigil ng criminal behavior. Mas kakaunti ang gustong gumawa ng krimen. Yan. Basically, first, it would save costs to the government. Gasto kaya maglagay ng criminal sa, or yung suspect sa presinto. Magastos kaya ang court proceedings. Magasto kaya ang mag-maintain ng jail facility. Yan. Also, dito sa classical school, the swifter and more certain the punishment, mas effective. Pag sa early stages pa lang, sa bata pa lang, nire-remind na ang publiko na wag silang gumawa ng ganito at ganyan kasi ito ang magiging penalty nila. Aarestuin sila, of course. Ang maisip ng mga bata, hindi lang sila gagawa ng krimen. Diba? That is one of the concepts ni Jeremy Tam. Okay? So, another proponent of classical school, si Cesar Beccaria, or yung complete name niya, masyadong mahaba. Cesar Marquis o Beccaria Bonesana. So, please take note of his renowned treatise or yung renowned na writing niya, yung libro niya, Treatise on Crimes and Punishment, released noong 1700s. Nakalagay sa libro niya na yung point of view niya with crimes is that ayaw ng tao at unfair for the criminal to be subjected to torture and death penalty. Kasi nung panahon nila, yung mga krimen, iisa lang yung punishment. Most commonly, either flogging or torture. Pinakamasahol na yung death penalty. Pero he saw that those are inhumane. Hindi na yun makatao. Na isa lang yung penalty. So it was one of those he was one of the founding fathers ng criminology, a founding work dito sa criminology. Yan. So yung libro niya, Treatise on Crimes and Punishment, yan, the essay on crimes and punishments. Yan. So he released that book. Yan. He proposed many other reforms dun sa libro niya. Okay? First, the prompt administration of clearly prescribed and consistent punishment. Ibig sabihin, dapat yung pagpapataw ng mga punishments toward criminals dapat hindi pinipili. Ang ibig sabihin, dapat ang enforcement ng punishment sa mga crimes hindi namimili kung mayaman ka, mahirap, or may kakilala ka. Dapat consistent. Lahat ng mga nagkasala would be subjected to a certain punishment. At dapat yung pag-inflict ng punishment dapat akma lang sa ginawa ng isang kriminal. Sunod, this is basically one of those useful na terms and propositions na nasa libro niya. Well-publicized laws made by the legislature rather than individual courts or ng individual judges. Ibig sabihin, dapat lahat ng mga batas na nagawa mapublicize or mailathala at maibahagi sa buong publiko. The general public must know of the laws and the new laws that were legislated at hindi lang yung iilan ang may alam. In sense of fairness, he wanted that all laws must be publicized and would reach to every individual in the society. Yan. And of course, lahat ng mga batas na nagagawa, hindi lang iisa or iilan lang ang pumipili. Not just certain courts or not just individual judges, but rather yung buong lehislatura. Kasi yun yung trabaho nila gumawa at maglagda ng batas. One of his propositions o yung mga proposals niya noong panahon nila na inadapt na hanggang ngayon, abolition of torture in prisons. Yan. In sense of fairness to the criminals, they are humans themselves. They are not animals. So at that time, yan, inaabuso nila yung mga tao na gumawa ng krimen. He saw that that is inhumane, against the will of the God. So, he wanted to abolish torture and just limit those criminals to certain punishments. Hindi yung nakakasakit ng sobra. Okay? And with the abolition of torture in prisons, he also proposed the use of a systematic penal system in order to deter or prevent offenders or would-be offenders from committing a crime. Ayaw niya kasi na meron pang mga tao na gustong gumawa ng krimen. At para mapigilan sila, nagsuggest siya or nagpropose siya ng penal system. A process to deal with criminals and their punishments. Yan. Kasi iniiwasan niya yung panahon nila na simple punishment. Pag may na-report, kahit hindi naman totoo or totoo, mapapunish yung criminal. It seems unfair, especially pag hindi totoo yung accusation. Yan. So, he wanted a proper penal system for everyone. Okay, so through his book, yung Essay on Crimes and Punishments, itong libro niya, that treatise made him popular, especially in Italy. So it made him popular against death penalty kasi yung kanyang libro medyo unique para sa panahon nila. Okay? So it had a great success not only in Italy but also throughout Europe noong 1700s. Yan. To the point na inadapt yon ng certain countries, especially sa France at nung Russian Federation noon. Yan. Yung libro niya ang nag-udyok sa iba't ibang mga kaharian at mga teritoryo na baguhin yung kanilang judicial system at yung kanilang justice system. Okay? So, yan yung contribution ni Cesar Beccaria, of course, inclined with the classical school. So, the third man sa classical school, please do not forget Cesar Lombroso. Yan. Yung birthday niya si Esquia Marco Lombroso. Esquia. Okay? So, again, Italian din to siya. Si Jeremy Bentham lang yung the anothers doon. Siya ray unsa dito. Sidebook na. Si Lombroso at si Beccaria were Italians. Ito namang si Cesar Lombroso was the elder one sa classical school. Of course, he's known to be the founder of the Italian school. Yan, positivist criminology, pero classical yung kanyang stand. Yan. Yan. Pero soon after, he went back to positivism and rejected yung tinatawag na classical school. Yan. So ito yung kanyang mga propositions. Yan. First, he held that crime was a characteristic trait of human nature. Yan. Ibig sabihin, 'di ba mayroong study si Charles Darwin na nanggaling daw ang mga tao from apes. So inadapt niya yung theory ni Charles Darwin, the theory of natural selection, na kung saan ang isang individual ay nanggaling sa apes. Yung shape ng kanyang ulo at ng skull niya would determine if that person is a criminal. Yung shape ng mukha din niya, another determinant of a criminal tendency. At sinasabi din niya, of course, yung theory ni Lombroso na the criminal or a criminal inherited his criminal tendencies. Nanggaling sa ninuno niya. Just like how apes inherit certain characteristics nila. Yan. Also, dahil sinasabi ni Lombroso na ang isang individual, yung kanyang criminal traits ay inherited, it is one reason why there are individuals who are considered born criminal. Sino ba itong mga born criminals? Of course, those people na para sa kanya, yung mga pangit or those people who are ugly and identified with physical defects na lain kayo skull shape, baga kaayo gunsa, kanang dako kaayo jawline, kanang panga na iyang suwang labaw pas full moon na labaw pas full moon or labaw pas half moon na. So it was considered savage at best. Yan. Atavistic ang tawag doon. Kriminal ka kasi pangit ka. Ganun. Atavism. 'Di ba? Problema na karon kung mao gihapon ng pananaw sa mga tao. Na nahitabong krimen nya tanaw na nila kinsi pinakapangit mao na nang suspect, 'di ba? It seems unfair. Yan. So of course, itong si Cesar Lombroso was not just the founder of the Italian school of positivism. Yan, kahit medyo classical yung kanyang style. He is also a prison doctor. Yan. And with the help of his title as a prison doctor and with his contributions in determining the root causes or the reasons of crime, he was regarded as the father of criminology. Yan, father of modern criminology. He's actually one of the largest contributors for positivism. Yan. Of course, dahil doktor siya, he follows procedures. And that's one reason na yung kanyang scientific approach at kanyang mga scientific processes, yan, with the use of empirical evidence o yung mga ebidensyang na-collect with the use of scientific processes, ginamit niya yung proseso na yun for studying crime. Yan. So yun, pag si Cesar Lombroso, pag pangit ka, kriminal ka. That is atavistic tendency, atavistic characteristics. Yan. With the use of psychosocial and physiological traits to determine crime. Yan. Measurement ng cheekbones, measurement ng jawlines, yan, hairline, kanang mga agtang na murag agtang sa mga apes na criminal daw na, o yung mga taong, I think you know this kind of condition, yung may cleft palate, yan, kanang mga naay murag bangag sa ilahang upper teeth, yan, upper lip, yan, na inherited nila or born with them, yan. So once may cleft palate, criminal na. Bisan bata na, criminal na. Yan yung position na pinaglalaban ni Lombroso. Yan. Kasi para silang mga Neanderthals o yung mga karaang tao, mga ancient beings na nakatira sa mundo, he called them atavistic. Lahat sila may atavism. Yan. As influenced by the theory of phrenology niya, na related din sa kanyang kaibigan na si Charles Darwin. Okay? Also, itong si Cesar Lombroso, dahil sa kanyang physiological trait study, he identified for himself the three types of criminals. First, yung mga atavist, mga pinanganak na kriminal. Diyos ko, may ganito yan. Yung sinabi ko kanina, pinanganak silang kriminal dahil pangit sila. Ayan. Problema na yan kung ngayon yan naging effective. 'Di ba? Lahat na lang magiging kriminal. Yan. Good thing it is just a theory. And good thing it was not adopted in the modern period. Sunod, insane criminal. Of course, kung ang atavism, yung physical o yung physiological features ng katawan, itong insane criminal, naging criminal ang isang individual according to him due to alcoholism, lasinggero, or due to certain mental difficulties or mental instabilities. Yan, mga kleptomaniacs, nymphomaniacs, mahilig sa hilig, di ba? Mga child molesters, including those na mahilig makakita ng apoy. You call them pyromaniacs. Mahilig manonog. Yan. That's a mental condition. Proven mental condition yan. Classified for him, according to his three types, insane criminal. Yan. Also, sa insane criminals, hindi naman lahat na labeled niyan, according to him, pinanganak ng may ganon. They were not born criminals compared to atavists. But they became criminal as a result of an alteration sa brain na siguro nakuha nila during the pregnancy ng mother or upon early stages ng birth nila. Okay? And the third one, yung criminaloid. Yan. Considered, please take note, habitual criminals. Inuulit-ulit nila ang paglabag sa mga batas or those abusers, habitual abusers. Yan. The same with insane criminals. Yan. Characterized by abuse of alcohol. Yan. Or yung mga tinatawag na distressing circumstances. Yung sobra na. Much more than those classified as insane criminals. Yan. One example, an example of a criminaloid, itong mga naging criminal by virtue of yung mga urges nila or those na naging criminal by passion. Yan. So yan, pag criminaloid, one example niyan, yung mga naging criminal sila dahil sa bugso ng damdamin. Hindi dahil pangit sila or meron silang mental difficulties na meron sa kanila before being born. Yan. Criminaloid, those criminals by passion, yan yung at the heat of the moment, gumawa sila ng krimen. Yan. Impulsivity or by virtue of impulsive actions. Which of course, yung epekto nyon, gumawa sila ng krimen na violent. Yung mga criminaloids, nagiging violente sila when they are provoked. Or, kanang gipugos nimo ba? Kanang napuno na sila. They were provoked, then they became violent and impulsive. By the time they would commit crime, they could not control their emotions anymore. Yan yung criminaloid. Atavist, yung criminal ka dahil pangit ka. Insane criminals, of course, yung keyword mo dyan, insane. Merong mga mental difficulties na nasa sa kanila at hindi pa cured, and that is the reason why they commit certain deviant behavior or they commit crimes. Hindi sila born na criminal. Okay? So, that is for Cesar Lombroso. So, other individuals, ito, si Enrico Ferri, student ni Lombroso. He believed that social as well as biological factors played a role and that criminals should not be held responsible for the factors because of their criminality na beyond sa control nila. 'Di ba may insane criminals, may sakit sa pag-iisip. Hindi nila control yung pag-iisip nila. And they must be treated according kay Enrico Ferri na student ni Lombroso. According kay Ferri, dapat yung mga individuals, especially insane criminals, yung may mga sakit sa pag-iisip, they must be considered as sick persons. Dahil totoo naman meron silang sakit. And that they must not be punished severely. They must be treated or, ito na yung term, rehabilitated. Okay? Yan yun. Sunod, Rafael Garofalo. Yan. Another student ni Lombroso, an Italian jurist. Ito silang dalawa, Italians. So, he is from the positivist school kasi ni-reject niya ang doctrine of free will. Okay? So, ang stand naman nito ni Rafael Garofalo, crime or crime itself can be understood only if it is studied with the use of scientific methods. So compared sa classical school, itong miyembro ng positivist school, ito si Rafael Garofalo, sinusuporta niya si Ferri at Lombroso. Na kung saan dinagdag niya na dapat ang pagsasaliksik or the study of crime must involve the use of the scientific method in which meron kang problema and then you try to develop a hypothesis. Yan, a hypothesis or a hypothetical question. Bakit merong problema? and you try to solve that problem with the available data you have gathered. Yan. Okay, so yan yung contribution ni Rafael Garofalo. So before I end this discussion, I would show to you the table comparing classical theory versus positivist theory. Ulitin ko ha, classical school versus positivist school muna. Mamaya na tong Chicago school at New Classical School. So, sa classical school, the focus is the crime and the criminal act, hindi yung tao. Yan. Sa positivist school, the focus is the man, not the crime committed. Yan. Okay? So, sa classical school, kanina, di ba? Hedonistic, mahilig sa kung ano lang yung masarap. Of course, that is based on free will, freedom. Sa positivist school naman, that is for classical school, itong sa positivist school naman, with the help of other fields of sciences, yan, biological, psychological, pati psychosocial, pati physiological, yung environment ng tao can be an attribute in criminal behavior. Okay? So, dito sa positivist school, walang responsibilidad na binibigyan sa offender. While in classical school, each individual or a criminal is responsible for his own behavior. Okay? So, yan yun. Next, you can just view that, yan, ito, view of justice system. Just read those. Yan. Forms of law din. Itong purpose of sentencing naman, let me just highlight this. Sa classical school, yung ini-inflict na punishment for certain crimes will serve as deterrence or kanang reminder sa publiko na, o sige, kung gumawa kayo ng krimen, itong mangyayari. That is deterrence. Tapos yung punishments, fixed ang length sa classical school. While sa positivist school, the sentences are indeterminate. Ang ibig sabihin, iba-iba yung length ng punishment depending on the crime and that those criminals are considered sick people in which until they are cured, dun muna sila sa facility. By the time that they are cured, pwede na silang bumalik sa community. Okay? So, those are the comparisons of classical theory versus positivist theory. Yan, medyo na shortened up na for you. Okay? So, next discussion, we'll talk about the Chicago School. Yan. So, ang proponents nito, just for starters, si Robert Ezra Park at si Ernest Burgess. Yan. Mula sa University of Chicago noong 1920s. Okay? So, we will discuss those and the topics for your second exam on the next discussion. So thank you for listening, and by the time you have seen this, this has been posted in your LMS. So, once again, thank you for listening and have a good day ahead of you.